You know, the number one marketing tool for any private practice is its website. It's your front door. It represents who you are. And if you don't have a good website, it's going to be difficult for you to attract your ideal clients. Brighter Visions is the ultimate web solution for therapists. They not only will help you build a beautiful website that represents who you are, they will help you with search engine optimization and provide unlimited support. So go check them out today. Head over to practiceoftherapy.com/brightervisions. They will do you right. This is the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, helping you to navigate your private practice journey. This is session number 68 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Hello, folks. I'm your host, Gordon Brewer, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. If you have been with us before, welcome back, and I'm so glad you're back and listening to us. You know, I'm so excited for my guest today, Laura Long. It's we've had to do some back and forth, as I mentioned on an earlier episode. Laura managed to catch the flu, but she's on the mend now, and finally got to interview her for today's podcast. So I'm going to introduce you to Laura here in just a little bit. But one thing I will say is just a full disclosure here. I think we used a little bit of bad language in this, not bad language, but authentic language in this episode. So if you've got little ones in the car or little ones around and you're listening to this, you might want to stick in the earbuds. It's not anything just offensive or anything. It's just different language. So, but we'll get to that here in a minute. So I just wanted to give you a heads up before you were shocked that you heard such words on the Practice of Therapy podcast. But it's really not that bad. So, but anyway, so it's, we're getting near the end of February. And one of the things that you've heard from me over and over again is I'm still working on this Money Matters course. And as you've heard from me before, for a limited time, I've got it in this pre-launch phase. And while it's in this pre-launch phase, you can get the whole course at half price. So take advantage of that while you can. I'm excited to continue to add more and more content to the course each week. And it's not going to be long before it's completely up and full and ready and fully launched. And then when that happens, it's no longer going to be available half price. So if you'll go over to practiceoftherapy.com/finance course, you can take a look at what is up there so far and also get it at half price. And for any reason, when you get to the checkout, it's not offered at half price. Just use the coupon code TAKE50. And that's just TAKE 50, and you can get it at half price for a limited time. So if you're listening to this way in the future, you've probably missed out. But anyway, just wanted to let you know that. And in this course, what I'm teaching is just all of the financial side of private practice, everywhere from just some basic accounting terms and learning about accounting principles and balance sheets and all that kind of boring stuff. But more importantly, just how to arrange your finances and how to understand the financial side of your practice, which is what for many private practices is what makes them or breaks them, because they haven't done the right kind of financial planning and the right kind of preparation on that whole side of what we do as therapists. So anyway, I want to invite you over there to take a look at that. It's practiceoftherapy.com/finance course. And it's going to be half price for just a little while longer. So take advantage of that. And that's all I'm going to plug that for today. So today's guest is Laura Long. And Laura Long is the person behind your badass therapy practice. And she is so much fun. And she is just one of those people that once you get to know her, she's just kind of infectious. So I was so excited that she agreed to be on the podcast. And we do a lot of laughing and have a lot of fun in today's episode. So without further ado, here is my friend Laura Long. Well, hello, folks, and welcome again to the Practice of Therapy podcast. And today is finally here. I'm so excited to have Laura Long with me. And for those of you that don't know Laura, again, she's gonna be one of those people you're gonna just have to get to know. And she has got this awesome YouTube channel that she started. And I think that's how I learned about Laura, or maybe it was through Kate and Katie. I can't remember. But anyway, I reached out to her and we decided that we needed to do this today, this podcast. And I'm so glad, Laura, too, you're over your flu.
Oh, yeah, me too. I still have like a little bit of this itchy throat that I hear lingers for a few weeks. But the fact that I'm vertical, I'm happy with that. Like
yes.
I can really walk. I'm good.
That's always a good thing. It's always a good thing when you can be vertical. So, Laura, tell folks about yourself and just about how you've ended up where you've ended, or going. Not ended. It's not ended. It's still going.
The party has just begun, Gordon. Yeah. So, hi everybody. I'm Laura Long. I am the face and the brains behind yourbadasstherapypractice.com. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist supervisor in the great, wonderful state of South Carolina. And let's see, I've been in private practice since 2013. And I forget the rest of your question, but I'm sure we'll get there. How did I get to where I am?
How did you get to where you are now?
In a very roundabout, back and forth rabbit hole kind of way.
Yes.
So private practice was always what I wanted to do. Even in grad school, that was the dream. I just assumed that I was going to have to be really old and wrinkly and experienced before I could do it. So I put that on the back burner. When I was in graduate school, one of our alumni came and did a panel with us. And one of the pieces of advice that she gave us was, when you graduate, do as many different jobs as you can. Don't just pick the first job and stick with that for 20, 30 years. Move around. Your resume might look a little hodgepodge, but it's worth it to get the experience. So I took that to heart. I graduated, kind of did one of those things where you spin the globe and then point your finger and just see where you land.
Right.
That was fun. I ended up in a very small town outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and I did school-based counseling with elementary and middle schoolers. And that was really fun. Yeah.
What town was that?
So I lived in Waynesville, North Carolina, on top of Balsam Mountain in a tiny little house on the top of the mountain. And I worked in Whittier, which is right outside of Cherokee.
Yes, I know that.
And my agency was located in Silva. So if you can kind of guess that whole very rural, mountainy, beautiful area, there's this Smoky Mountain Expressway that's like to date the most well-kept highway I have ever driven on, and yet also the emptiest. So I did that for a year and I absolutely loved it. I loved the agency I worked for. They were a private agency. And I remember in the summer when the kids weren't in school and we had to still somehow find ways to see them. So I would do some in-home work, but we would also, my agency would arrange these amazing outings that they would pay for. So we went whitewater rafting, we went hiking, like crazy hikes.
Wow.
We went and visited some nature preserves. We got to do all kinds of fun stuff. So I loved it. I mean, the pay wasn't all that great, but it never is for someone just out of grad school. So So I did that for a year, and then my husband and I ended up moving to Greenville. He had gotten a new job offer that we really couldn't pass up. So we moved to Greenville. I didn't have a job lined up. And so I ended up working at a level 3 group home with children who were in DSS custody, as well as children who were placed there through DJJ. And that was a really challenging experience. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here.
Yes.
That was very, very, very hard for me. I got to see a lot of things that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
And it was, I cried a lot on my way home. So I was glad that my commute was an hour each way, because I needed that time to decompress.
Right. Right. Well, I know as we were talking before we started recording, I know it sounds like your journey and my journey have kind of taken parallel kind of courses, because the same thing for me. When I first got out of graduate school, I went to work for an agency, and again, in-home therapy kind of thing. And you really go into some tough situations, and it just kind of sticks to you. And I can remember those first months working there, just laying awake at night, just thinking, how am I going to do this?
I remember thinking, like, what is therapy when the child or the client that you're working with they see you for an hour in your office, but then they have to go right back into an environment that is not entirely safe, in my opinion. So therapy sometimes looked like us just sitting and watching funny YouTube videos. And I was like, is this really therapy? So that was really hard for me, because what I was taught in grad school were all these beautiful theoretical models, but they also those models make the assumption that the person you're working with is in a safe place.
Right. Right.
So that was really hard. Let's see. So from there, I got a little bit burned out. Shocker. And I was like, maybe I need to take a little break from therapy for a hot minute. So I ended up working at an assessment center for children and families entering foster care. And I really loved that job, but it was not therapy. It was very much just assessment work, trying to figure out what families who were entering the foster care system actually needed, rather than just giving them the same cookie cutter recommendations that they give to every family. So that was a really cool experience. And that is when I actually started private practice on the side.
Yes.
So that's so we're talking like 2012, 2013. So this is where it gets kind of juicy.
Yes.
I did what I think many therapists do when they're working in an agency, but they still want to do private practice. They start this thing on the side, and it almost gives them permission to not take it very seriously, because, it's a good thing on the side, if I get a great. If I don't, no big deal, because I have this steady paycheck coming in from my agency. So that's what I did. Treated it like the hobby that it was. Got a couple of clients, but it was not anything serious. And it wasn't until that agency I was working at, it became, I think I would say, toxic at this point. In agencies where they're not run entirely the way that they should be run, all those people have since gone. So I feel like I can say this now, but when agencies are not run the way they should, and people become really unhappy, then it's like it just trickles down and affects everybody. It's like a cancer.
Yes.
So when I saw the writing on the wall at that particular agency, I thought to myself, well, I've got this little private practice. Maybe I can grow it. But then suddenly I found myself having to leave sooner than I had anticipated. I wasn't fired, but I was starting to see that they were letting people go. And I was like, I do not want to be one of those people.
Right.
They were kind of pushing people out who they saw as a threat. So I got a jump start on it, and I left without any safety net at all, which, for those of you who maybe don't know me, I'm very type A. I'm a planner, which can be really great and can also be terrifying when you just make a rash decision, or any decision without a plan. So
Right.
Yeah. So for me, leave an agency job and have nothing lined up. I have this like baby private practice that I'm seeing like 1 or 2 clients a week. Like, oh man, that was a really terrifying time. And I knew it was the best decision for me. So that was that was challenging. I don't know if you want to talk any more about that. Do you have experience with having to
yes,
leave
and that's very similar. Again, very similar journey in that. Fortunately for me, when I made the decision, I didn't see the agency that I was working for. It wasn't necessarily crumbling around me, but kind of the opposite in a way. I mean, they kept giving me raises, and I was thinking, well, will you quit that? It's making me hard to leave. And
trying to get out of here.
I'm trying to get out of here, and you're giving me all this money. I think there is something that happens when you really kind of jump in and you say, yeah, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And then when you get out of it, and then you think, oh shit, what have I done? And
you said it, not me.
I did. Okay. Yeah. I said it first. Sorry. A whole other side note here. We were talking about potty mouth stuff ahead of time, but anyway. So I think there was a difference. There's a difference between, I've got this private practice on the side, but I still have this steady paycheck coming in. So whether I'm, quote, successful in my private practice or not, doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Versus me jumping ship from my agency. Luckily, I did and do have a partner. So it's not that I was going from making a paycheck to literally $0, but my mindset around my private practice shifted instantaneously. Like overnight, my private practice suddenly had to become lucrative. It was no longer a hobby. It was my livelihood. It was a career path. And I was under 30 and I'm like, all right, I guess, I'm not wrinkly yet, but I'm starting this private practice thing about 25 years earlier than I thought I was going to. And what it does, I think, Laura, is it makes you get over that imposter syndrome stuff really fast.
Oh yeah. You don't have time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
nose to the grindstone. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And there are people who aren't as smart as me and they've figured it out. So surely I can figure it out too. It can't be that complicated.
Yeah. And so you like me, jumped into this whole consulting, teaching people about private practice stuff. Mm-hmm. Tell us how you did that and also what you've learned about it.
Yeah, that is, there's like the shortest answer to that question. And then there's like the 3-hour long version. So I'm going to have to find the middle ground here. So Gordon, what you and I were talking about before we started recording is the fact that when people like you and I, who are seen as experts in this field, and we coach others and we provide consulting services, when we talk about our journeys into private practice and we talk about it, in a backwards way moving forward, it often sounds very linear. Like if I say, so I graduated grad school and I worked here and I worked there and then I worked over here and then I started private practice and blah, 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 the journey goes on. Like it sounds very like methodical in a way, like almost as if we knew what we were doing, which is why when I tell my story, I try to peel back those layers so that people listening know that it was not an organized story. Like there was a lot of fear there and insecurities, and there was no way I could have known when I decided to leave that last agency and dive headfirst into private practice. There's no way I would have known what the future held. Of course, looking back now, I'm so glad that I left when I did, because wow, my private practice was really successful. And now I'm able to coach other people and help all these other therapists. But that was never the plan. I didn't know that's what was going to happen. And I think a lot of therapists get tripped up because they want to make the right decision or they want to do it the right way. So they're balancing agency work and private practice, or they're jumping in head first to private practice, but they're like, what's the best way to do this? And I often have to tell them there is no best way.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's path looks a little bit different. And it doesn't mean that you can't still have the same end result, whatever that is for you, whether it's a caseload of 25 or 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no one way to get there.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that Steve Harvey video on YouTube where he talks about jumping? No. Okay. I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes to that. But just what you talked about is that, people think that when we're successful, that we've done it kind of pain free. But yeah, it's hard stuff. And as I say to people, same thing. I've learned a lot of stuff the hard way. And I don't want you to have to do that. But that's also the best way we learn. And you're exactly right. It's just, and Steve Harvey, the backtrack when Steve Harvey's video, he talks about when you jump, he uses the metaphor jumping off a cliff. You'll see people flying past you and they look so graceful and it looks like they're together. But what you don't know is that they've also hit the wall going down too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
a different but similar metaphor. One of my students in your Badass Therapy Practice in my course, she was explaining to me why she chose to do my program and hire me rather than just do it on her own. Because certainly therapists can figure this out on their own. It's not the most difficult thing. And she was telling me why she decided to hire out and why she decided to invest in a program like mine. And she said, it's almost as if you're trying to drive cross country from, say, LA to Detroit. Most people who set out on that journey are going to be able to figure it out, right? We have a GPS on our phone. There's atlases if you want to be super old school, and you can take a highlighter and kind of draw all the different roads you're going to take. And you might get lost along the way, but after a couple of days of driving, you will land in Detroit. Like, you'll figure it out. It's not the most difficult thing. But when you hire somebody, whether it's a coach, a consultant, you invest in a program, they are going to make it so that you have this very clear path. And there are not going to be any of these like, oh no, am I going the right way? Or I'm going south and I thought I was going north. It's just going to be a much clearer path. So you'll get there more quickly. You might have less heartache. You're still going to hit the wall, like you said, a few times. But I thought that was a really great analogy to explain, like, why invest in people like you and people like me? Like, oh, well, I'll still be successful. I believe that about myself, but maybe investing in something else, a program or a coach or whatnot.
Right.
That'll get me to my goal faster and easier.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I know when I have taken part in like mastermind groups or gotten some coaching, it's like I got, it was just like a big boost. It was just kind of like,
yeah. And I hired a coach to help me with the start of my YouTube channel because I didn't and still hardly know what I'm doing. And and hiring a coach was great because I had so many questions about like the direction I was going in, or like, is this the right thing? Or what do you think about this headline for my video? Like these tiny little questions that come up.
Yes.
And I'm like, am I doing the right thing here? Am I like going completely off the rails? And to have someone just be like, first of all, there is no one right way.
Yeah.
What you're doing is going to work. Here are some suggestions on what you could try. It just made me feel more clear on what I was doing in the direction.
Right. Right.
So anyway.
And that is a great segue into what the other thing we were talking about at the beginning was just the importance of being authentic and doing it your way. That's what resonates with people. And
and I think that's actually, to answer your last question, that's I think how I got started in coaching other people. So I did do the bootstrap thing. When I was growing my private practice, there weren't coaches in 2013. So just to think now how much this industry has grown, and there are so many coaches for therapists who are doing awesome stuff. So back in 2013, there was none of that. Like, there were no Facebook groups for therapists. Right. We all just had to bootstrap it and figure it out. So of course I read everything I could get my hands on. And I would say probably around 2014, 2015, I'd only been in private practice a year or two. I had a couple of friends in the area who were also wanting to go into private practice. So similar to you, I just started helping people naturally. Never even thought about turning it into a business or a side business. I was just helping them. And in 2016, 15, I'm losing my years here. I think in 2016 is when I got the idea to start an actual business helping therapists. Right. So I got the idea for your Badass Therapy Practice, started an 8-week course, and here we are now. So like 3 years? Holy moly. Yeah. Been 3
Yeah,
years.
that's yeah, and it's again, just the timing of that is just very similar to what happened for
Mm-hmm.
me. Just and so people that have listened to the podcast know that I one of the influencers for me was Joe Sanok, and it just kind of
Who's that? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Just kidding.
I hope Joe's listening to this.
Who's Joe Sanak? I've never heard of that guy.
Yeah.
Only like the biggest name in our industry.
Right. All right. Yeah. And so I started listening to Joe's podcast, and I was thinking, Joe's a pretty smart guy, and he knows a lot of this stuff, but I know it too. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to do my spin on it. And I think that's why I've had the success I've had is just doing it my way. And I think
that's why, to go back to your piece about authenticity, I think that's why there are so many of us out there and why we're all still successful.
Yeah.
There's no lack of therapists who need help, but also we are all so different from one another, and we put our own spin on building a private practice because like I said earlier, there is no one right way.
Right. And the other thing too that's just been so refreshing for me is just how collaborative everybody I've run into that's in this whole consulting coaching space, how collaborative we are with each other.
No scarcity mentality here.
Right. Right. And it's just great. Yeah. So, Laura, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied here. Laura, tell folks about some more about the things that you're doing with your YouTube channel and your course and all of that stuff. And the YouTube channel, just you folks, you got to watch it because it's just fun. It's just fun.
I'm so glad you think that was my intention was for it to actually be fun and enjoyable. With the YouTube channel, my goal was for it to be fun and informative at the same time. And I wanted it to be short little snippets that's like jam-packed full of content, but not a 40-minute long thing. And so I'm really glad to hear that you think the YouTube channel is fun, because that was like my number one thing. I want it to be fun. I want people to enjoy watching it and to learn something too. Right.
So, so how did you, just curious, how did you decide to go YouTube as opposed to podcasting, any of the other ways of doing this?
Yeah. So I hired a coach. You guys hear the theme here. Even coaches hire coaches. I hired a coach because I was wanting to grow and scale your badass therapy practice now that I had the means to do so. And I really wasn't sure how to do that or what it would look like. And so after having a few sessions with my coach, we determined that I actually really love video. It's something that I enjoy doing. I just hate all of the tech related with it. So, I mean, I can click a Zoom link, but anything beyond that, buying video equipment and editing things, that's like the bane of my existence. So I was able to cross that barrier by simply hiring somebody to do it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah. It seems like I remember, maybe it was the podcast you did with Kate and Katie, where you were just talking about hiring a videographer and all of that.
That was Perry.
Perry. That's right. Yeah.
So I'm using YouTube as a platform to grow your badass therapy practice. And I love doing videos. And now I really love doing them because I don't have to edit them. And so I wanted to really help therapists who are more in that new phase where they're either contemplating private practice or they're like brand spanking new, just open their doors, and they're just looking for help along the way as they're starting. So it's definitely aimed more towards the newbies.
Yeah.
And I love writing. I write to my email list every so often, and I used to keep a blog. And while I love writing, it takes a lot out of me to like sit at my computer because I'm such a perfectionist with it. So I'll spend 20 hours on one blog post, whereas with a video, I can kind of type up a loose script and then just go on video, and I feel a lot more comfortable doing it that way. Right.
What are you finding are some of the bigger questions people are asking? I know you mentioned just on your YouTube channel, you get a lot of questions from people. And so what are some of those bigger, I guess, kind of maybe the theme of what you're hearing?
So the main question that I used to hear was very broad, but it was simply, how do I get more clients? That used to be the question I would get all the time. How do I get more clients? How do I get more clients? And what's really exciting, Gordon, and I think it's probably because there are so many coaches out there offering so many awesome resources, people are now asking slightly different questions, still wondering how to get more clients, but they're wondering, how do I get more clients by being myself?
Yeah.
And I love that that question is changing. A lot of therapists are talking more about how to be authentic in their marketing, how to have a website that actually articulates who they are and what makes them different as people, being more authentic in our marketing. Like, I love that therapists are asking these questions now rather than just, how do I get more clients? I'll do whatever it takes and I'll be whoever I need to be to get clients who pay me anything. I think therapists are understanding their own inherent value more, the value of their services. They are being a little bit more selective with the clients that they take on. And that's really exciting for me because I want all the therapists I work with to be able to see all the people that they love serving, to make all of the money so that they can help even more people, and they can donate if they want to, whether it's their time or money, but they can live a life that they feel is rich, whether that's financially rich or just having more time to spend with their families, rather than just being like a grunt worker, seeing 30 plus clients a week just to, keep their lights on. Right.
Yeah. And I think it's, that's something that I've really tried to drive home to people is, really, make your practice fit your lifestyle and not the other way around. It's just, just really looking at how you want to be and be authentic. I think when it comes down to it, most of us don't go into this to necessarily, making money is important, but we don't necessarily go into it just to become this huge millionaire and all that sort of thing. What we really just want is just a lifestyle that makes us comfortable and being able to go out to the restaurants we want to go out to, go on the vacations we want to go on to, and have the time to do it. And
we want the flexibility. I mean, I think that's almost every therapist's number one priority when they start their private practice is that I want to be my own boss. I want a flexible schedule.
Right.
The problem is a lot of them get into private practice and suddenly they're finding themselves being flexible for everyone else, whether it's clients or family or friends, but they're not actually being flexible for themselves. They're working these crazy hours that they never wanted to work before. They're not holding their own personal boundaries like they always dreamed they would. So I think a lot of therapists now are asking questions that are more specific about taking care of themselves as business owners rather than just, how do I get more clients? It's how do I get more clients to come during the hours I want to work? How do I get more clients to pay my full fee? How do I get more clients who appreciate the fact that I show up a certain way? So it's like they're getting more, it's like peeling back the onion layers rather than just asking this broad, how do I get more clients? So I really appreciate that therapists are taking it a step up now.
Yeah. Same here. And that whole importance of niche and all of that as well. Yeah. Well, Laura, I want to be mindful of your time and tell folks how they can get in touch with you and where to find you.
Yeah. So they can find me at yourbadasstherapypractice.com. I've got a free 4-part video e-course on how to take your Psychology Today profile from bad to badass. So a lot of people enjoy that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my YouTube channel, you can just go to yourbadasstherapypractice.com/YouTubes with an S. And that's how you'll get linked up to my actual YouTube channel. And then, of course, I have a Facebook page that I just post funny stuff. It's just like my... it's like a personal page, but it's for Your Badass Therapy Practice. So that's just facebook.com/YourBadassTherapyPractice. And I post all kinds of funny, offensive things there. So,
okay.
So if you want to get a laugh, come join me there.
That's, I've seen them and they do brighten my day. Yeah.
Gotta have a sense of humor here.
Yes. It's as an old friend of mine used to say, he says, it's not worth, if it isn't fun, it ain't worth doing. So
amen.
yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Gordon,
Yes,
for
Laura,
getting this all set up.
yes. And we'll, I'm excited for people to hear you and get to know you. And thanks so much for doing this. And we'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll be seeing you soon at one of these conferences coming up, I believe.
Yes, we will be. We will be.
Cool.
So, thanks, Laura.
You're welcome. Bye, Gordon.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed Laura as much as I did. I just, I still just kind of chuckling at some of the things we talked about, but I think, kind of the big take home point for me is the importance of just being authentic and just being yourself, particularly when you're thinking about, how you get your name out there, how you present yourself to the public. Just be you. And, the other thing that she said that I think just really kind of resonated is that the truth of the matter is none of us that have been in private practice really got here in a straight line. It was a lot of, learning from mistakes. It's a lot of failures along the way, but that's just part of it. And I would say, the big message I would want everyone to get from this is just keep at it and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to, as we were talking about, get bruised up and banged up on the way down. It's okay. And just keep at it and be yourself and create the kind of private practice that you want to have. So, again, big thanks to Laura, and do check out her resources over at Your Badass therapypractice.com. She's got some great stuff there, and looking forward to hopefully having Laura on again so we can laugh some more. And check out our YouTube channel. As I said earlier, it is a wonderful YouTube channel, and it's on my subscribe list and playlist, and something I look at or watch regularly. So go check that out. So do check out the finance course, the Money Matters course. I said I wasn't going to plug it again, so I lied. Here I'm plugging it again. So go over to practiceoftherapy.com/finance course. And also check out our sponsor for today's program, Brighter Visions. They are great folks, and they will absolutely help you create a beautiful website that helps people find out about you and find you and bring you your ideal clients. So take care, folks. I look forward to talking to you in the next few episodes. We've got some exciting guests lined up, and can't wait for you to hear them and get to hear them. So take care, folks. And thanks again for listening to the podcast. Oh, and be sure to go over and subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. And give us a rating. Let us know what you think, and give us a review. It just only helps boost the podcast and makes it easier for other people to find. Take care, folks. Been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive the free private practice startup guide at practiceoftherapy.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, or producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. If you need a professional, you should find the right person for that.